Hey folks, and welcome to another episode of the Brand Builder Show. It's an honor today to have a good Twitter friend, Robin Brown. I've been following Robin on Twitter for a while now, and he is constantly dropping some great knowledge, sharing his journey to 7 figures on Amazon. And I thought it'd be good to get him on the show and talk through that journey, what it was like to launch his first product and actually fail with that first product, and then that journey through to 7 figures. This was a great conversation, which I know you'll get a lot of value out of. He is a just real clear thinker, clear communicator, and is clearly a good operator. So without further ado, let's jump into this episode with Robin. Awesome. Well, I am here with Robin all the way from Australia this morning. Welcome to the show, Robin.
Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, I'm excited to dive into your journey. We've kind of connected a little bit on Twitter, the growing Amazon army on Twitter, and just seeing some of your progress has been super inspiring. And so, yeah, I'm excited to dig into your story, your progress, how you've got there, where you're headed, and all that kind of stuff, really. So take us back to the beginning, man. How did you, well, firstly, yeah, you're in Sydney, but you are not from Australia. How did you find yourself in that great part of the world?
Work, basically. I keep wanting to say I am a film artist, but I guess I'm not, because I'm making the transition to FBA and I do it full time now, but in my head I'm still a film artist, and it can be quite transient work. You can travel wherever you want, and I came out here maybe 6-7 years ago for what was supposed to be a 5-week contract, and ended up staying 5 months and met my now partner within the first weekend. So I was actually living in Canada at the time, and then by the end of the 5 months started thinking, okay, this might work. So we did long distance for a little bit and then moved here, I think 3 years ago now.
Nice. It's an amazing place of the world. Like I said to you before, I lived there for a couple of years, and it's a beautiful place. So a little bit jealous at the moment in our English winter, but thankfully spring is coming around, and looking forward to some warmer weather. But no, thank you for joining us. It's like 7 in the morning for you, right? So.
Yep, but it's we've got a 7-month-old baby, so I'm used to early hours at the moment.
True. No, good stuff. Well, I appreciate it a lot. So yeah, let's dig into your journey then. So take us back to the beginning. When was the first time you heard about the opportunity to sell on Amazon, and what kind of got you into it?
I think it was 2017. I was working on a film, and at the beginning of films it is always a very quiet time, and to be honest I was kind of bored, so I was surfing around for podcasts to listen to, and ran into one that was it was Eventual Millionaire, and it was an interview with Adam Hudson talking about the FBA model, and I thought, that's kind of interesting, like something that, yes, you can front load the work, but then after that it's kind of passive. And I thought it just piqued my interest, I guess, and listened to more and more stuff, and probably took me about a year before I pulled the trigger and actually ordered something. Quite a lot of analysis paralysis at the start. But yeah, that got me going. And then first sale, I looked this up just before because I thought this might come up, was April 2018 was our first sale, or our first 9 sales in April. And then kind of grew from there with various bumps and things along the way.
Yeah, nice, man, nice. And so your sort of journey from there, did it grow quickly? Did you have any false starts? How was that first sort of year for you?
Very much a false start. So the first product was actually a failure, which I think is a lot more common than people let on. I'd found this product in December of the previous year and made the order, and then 3 days after I placed the order, I was going through the Facebook groups and saw someone posting saying, okay, this guru group has put out a list of ideas for their students. Stay away, basically. And my product, which was a felt letterboard at the time, was on that. It was on that list. I was like, oh my god! So I wasn't sure what to do, but the product got in. But by the time it had, it was like hyper saturated. So yeah, that was my first learning experience with Amazon for sure, but got me a bit of a taste from it. And up until that point, I'd kind of done it self-paced, so I'd followed what I could find on YouTube, podcasts and the like, and I'd done a little course, not like a largely structured one. And I thought, okay, I think this is for me. It didn't work out this time. So I bought another course, and it was one where you could kind of vet your ideas before you went ahead with the order, which was super important to me because of my first experience. So went from there, really. I think it was, just trying to remember, probably 7 or 8 months since that first product launch where I launched product 2.
Okay.
And yeah, I went from there, really.
What was it that made you carry on? Like, if that first product didn't work, a lot of people would just say, well, this doesn't work, and give up and walk away. What made you carry on?
Well, the reason that I thought about doing FBA, like, the film work actually pays really well, but the hours can be crazy. Like, you can get to 80, 100-hour weeks during peak time, and that can be for months on end. And I always had a view that I wanted a family and the like, and I just thought, how does that work with kids? How do people make this work? They do make it work, but kind of disappearing for a couple of months on end and being a zombie around your kids because you're so tired wasn't something that I wanted to do. So I always had an eye to maybe there's something else I could do, and I thought that this was a good option, like something that I could dip my toe into at the same time as still working, and I could kind of see how it went that way. So yeah, I guess that's why I stuck to it. I'd kind of planned to do real estate actually before, right before I found FBA, but just because of going back and between Canada and Sydney, that was going to prove difficult. So I had a little bit of capital saved up for doing something else. I just wanted to give FBA a go.
Yeah. And so that first product experience wasn't enough to put you off?
It definitely stung at the time, not gonna lie, but no, I thought, like, the model is brilliant, and it has its challenges for sure, but it's absolutely scalable, and I think it's absolutely achievable as long as you don't give up. So yeah, I wanted to stick with it. I thought I'd give it another product with kind of the new tuition that I was going through, and then reevaluate. Like, if that hadn't worked out, I maybe would have questioned myself a bit more, but I thought I'd at least give it another crack.
Yeah. And then how did you approach that second product? Did you do things differently to the first one?
Yeah, so the person that was running the course was really good, actually. I had a call with them, and they said, because I had another product in mind, and I showed it to them, and he said, like, it's okay, but because you've had this first experience, we need to get your win on the board, basically, because if you get another failure, then that's gonna be a really uphill battle. So I spent more time looking for another opportunity and found one that kind of tied in some of my like film design experience. It was a product where it was design based, so I was quite comfy doing that sort of thing, and ended up running my design versus the competitors via PickFu, making little tweaks to it until it always got like the favourable response in PickFu. So I had a pretty decent idea that it should convert quite well. Yeah, and that gave me the traction that I thought. Like, I went in with the expectation, okay, if it makes 5k a month revenue, that's like first base hit, that's good for me, and it ended up doing like 10 to 12k a month. And then it was actually something that I thought, I probably can't build a brand around this, but now I've got the experience, now I've got a bit more of a plan about how to launch products and the like. I'll look for other opportunities and grow from there, so that's what we did.
Yeah, it's a real good bit of insight that you use PickFu to, really study the market before you went into it. For anybody that's listening doesn't know what PickFu is, it's almost like a split testing. You poll an audience for two different options, right? And then they can choose, and it gives you that insight of real customer data. So it's, I think really a lot of people would think to use it to test their main image or their infographics, once they've got their product, but you used it before your product was sourced to help you in the product development process, right?
Yeah, and it's something that I almost always do with all new products now. It's not the cheapest thing in the world to do the PickFu test, but it's invaluable, and as well as just getting a comparison point like, oh, the audience prefer A to B, you can also ask them a question and get feedback that way. So like, what would you change, or how might you do this differently, or little questions like that, and you can pick up little nuggets from that as how to tweak the product and how it's how to merchandise it more effectively, basically.
Yeah, that's really smart. That's really smart. And so that second product that you launched, that's something that you still sell now?
Yeah, it's definitely suffered from margin compression. More competitors come into the niche. I think it's probably doing about 8K a month now. And to be honest, I've not paid a lot of attention to the listing. It could probably do with a bit of updating. Just a bit more focused on growth of new products. So I've kind of deprioritized that, but it's something that we're looking to get to in the next month or so. But yeah, it's had a good product life cycle. It's maybe 3 years we've been selling that now.
Yeah. And then did you continue to launch products in that same niche?
No, so I was a bit confused what to do at the time. I guess there's definitely different ways to approach this industry. Like you can do the scattergun kind of open brand accounts, or more niche down. And I think that now, as FBA is consolidated, the brand is a lot more important than it was back in 2018. I ended up launching another product in a different niche and kind of grew out a brand around that. So the first product that we have is a bit of an anomaly to the brand, but it's making revenue, and it kind of it's no work really. So I'll just keep it going. But the next products that we launched were four ASINs centered around a specific kind of arts and craft product, and that was a little bit different to the first approach that we took, based upon some of the learnings from the course. So first product was more around the typical jungle scout, like find something small and light, fits in a shoebox, and low reviews and that kind of thing. This product was actually different in terms of it was an electronics item and it was a bundle, so I thought that that's going to be a pretty decent moat at that time, and it definitely proved that way. It's not a highly competitive market at all.
Yeah, that's good, man. And so that's the one you've sort of been building up until now. That's the main brand that you still own now.
Yeah, so that's the main revenue brand. Also started a secondary one start of this year, 2022, that is in a gifts niche. It's definitely a trickier niche, and we've got a couple of products in there, but I think I really want to focus on one brand because it is good diversification as risk mitigation and the like, but it definitely splits your focus, and I want to scale quite quickly, so I really want to double down on the brand that's working and the one that I think has more potential long term. So really going to focus on one and just kind of leave the other brand selling through at the moment.
Yeah, sure, okay. And talk to us about that then, in terms of the journey, where you're up to now. As much as you're comfortable, obviously I follow you on Twitter and you post your progress and your updates. You had a pretty good Q4 from what I remember. Are you comfortable sharing with the audience kind of where you're at in terms of revenue and progress?
Yeah, so by December last year we just hit the 7-figure run rate. It was the first time we cracked the $1 million mark within a year, and it always been my North Star, like just a vague kind of goal. Okay, I want to get to 7 figures. I got there, I was like, okay, that's cool. Now what? So took a few weeks to try and work out a plan, because it just seems like a strange thing just to throw out a random arbitrary number and think, okay, that's now my new goal. But I thought that kind of I got to 7 figures just by throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks. I'm not a very structured person. Like, I'm a creative from a creative background, so Excel spreadsheets and structure isn't my forte for the most part. But to scale beyond 7 figures, that's kind of what you need to do. You need more structure, SOPs, that sort of thing. So I'm at the point now where we've set new goals, and want to have an exit within, well, my initial plan was 2 years, but through getting more structure and doing forecasting and things like that, I don't think that's a likely timescale for us. So 2.5 years is the goal now. But yeah, I'm just trying to put in things in place to get to that point. So I'm hiring a coach and getting more advice that way, and yeah, trying to scale.
What moves that goalpost from 2 years to 2.5 years? Is it like a number that you set you want to achieve, or what's changed that?
Yeah, so, and this was one of the things that my coach really helped with. So, and I know this isn't the best thing to do. Revenue was always my target. Okay, I'll get to the 7-figure mark, and then after that, I thought, okay, should I just throw out a random like 2 million, 3 million number or whatever? And through speaking to him, he said, okay, let's work backwards. So, when do you want to sell, and what do you want your business value to be? And that was a very better lens to look at it, just because I could build a business, say if my target was now $3 million or whatever, I could build a business that gets to that point before the 2-year period, but because businesses are valued on the previous trailing 12 months, you really need to get to that point 12 months before you sell, so that you can have a whole year cycle. And especially with a brand that's centered around Q4, like Q4 is a massive part of our revenue, so you need to maximize that. And ideally, you need to be not launching new products in that trailing 12 months, because they're going to be a drain on your profitability and the like. So that made me realize, okay, if we had a 2-year goal, that means I need to get everything done in the next year. And then if you consider, okay, it takes 3 months on average to get a product produced, get it shipped into Amazon, get the listing ready, get it launched, and then you probably have another 6 months before you've reached the point of profitability of like covering the cost of the initial order and the reorder and the like. It's like, okay, there's my 12 months is now reduced by 9 months, so I've got to kind of launch all these products in the next three months. That's not going to work. So I went through a forecasting exercise, and that realized that my plan was not going to work. But through modeling different scenarios, I realized that, okay, 2.5 years is more likely. That gives us a 9-month window to launch so many products. And I'm also going to approach that slightly differently, that I think will help us scale. So we came up with an EBITDA goal and kind of worked out what my average revenue per product was currently, and realized that would be a lot of products. So rather than launching all those in individual product terms, that's a lot of outreach, a lot of different suppliers to manage. Kind of going to try and approach it more on a category basis, so finding niches of products that will hit certain level EBITDA, and then just have, say, 5 of those or 6 of those, and then it's just 5 suppliers to deal with. And all being well, you should get kind of economies of scale through doing it that way, and better terms and the like. So it will be a more slightly riskier approach doing it that way, higher revenue, but it should be a way to do it more quickly.
Yeah, sounds good, man. Sounds good. And what's the team sort of look like? Is it just yourself, or do you have any help at the moment?
Yeah, I've only got one part-time person at the moment. Looking to grow them to a full-time role. I think with kind of the current team in inverted commas, it's only being one other person. We can probably launch 1 to 2 products a month, and I think that's probably doable with our time scale. The forecasts that we've done is kind of an early days one, so we might find down the line that, okay, this isn't going to work, we might need to scale the team a bit. But yeah, keeping it quite small and lean at the moment, because it's also less of a drain on cash flow and the like too.
What do they do for you?
She's a bit of a Jill of all trades, actually. She's great. She's from an accounting background, so she does a lot of the accounting stuff, and then she does product research, and then supplier outreach, and kind of consolidates all the suppliers quotes into one main sheet that I can look at, and organises samples, inspections, shipping. Yeah, like she can dip into. She's been with me a couple of years. She can dip into various aspects of the business, like setting up PPC campaigns and that kind of thing. So we have a lot of kind of overlap of jobs where she can step in it if need be. I kind of keep myself more to the second half of the FBA process, so design work and listings and general business strategy really, and she's more with the sourcing and that side of things.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's crazy, right? What other business model could you run where you could own $1 million business with you and a part-time member of staff? It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is nuts. It can be so scalable. It's just the upfront work that you have to get out of the way, and then once you do, the maintenance is much less. So it's all about how aggressively you want to scale after that point. But yeah, crazy, eh?
Yeah, for sure. You mentioned your product launch plan, launching lots of products, and you also said earlier about how you'd learnt from your mistakes and from the learning and the training you've gone on to do. You've learned how better to launch products. Can you talk us through what you do now to launch a product that's different to maybe a year ago, 2 years ago?
Yeah, I guess if you compare it to the first product we launched, it's night and day in terms of the technical approach. I think that's one of the big changes in the Amazon space in the last year or two, particularly as aggregators have come into the space, and just with the influence of all the Chinese sellers, it's just got more of a technical approach. So I think PPC is really essential, and having a great strategy for that can make or break your launch. With any product launch, it's a lot of it hinges around the product itself and the way you've merchandised it. So obviously the product research and the merchandising you do up front makes everything easier if you do that right. So really focusing on that. But yeah, it's definitely a different climate now in terms of giveaways have been explicitly outruled. So there's a lot more of an emphasis on PPC and how many keywords you can kind of hit for a product. So with that, kind of my approach has been centered around using Data Dive, Brandon Young's tool, to see for new products, okay, because you can have a product that has a lot of sales or search volume, but it might just be on a few keywords. So if you've got a few competitors all scrapping over those few keywords, it's going to be a lot tougher for. But if you can find products that have 200-300 different keywords, a lot of the sellers aren't going to hit all of those keywords, so it gives you a lot more opportunity to rank on longer tails and succeed that way, as well as the main search terms. So that's really a focus right now. Honestly, I haven't launched a product in the last 4 or 5 months, so that's my plan to go into it like very PPC heavy. Expect to launch. Expect to lose, money up front. And honestly, I listened to your Kevin King podcast last week, and listening to his approach was really interesting. Great interview, by the way. So yeah, I'm gonna aggressively discount my product at launch as well. And whereas before we would do giveaways and expect to lose money via that, I'll probably take that budget that I would have done for giveaways and just roll that into steep product discounts to get traction at the start and approach it from that way.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what we'll be doing. We've got new product launching in a couple of weeks, and yeah, we'll definitely be doing that. Whether I can go to $3 or not is another thing, but
I thought that too. I was like, oh my god, that's a big discount. But I thought, maybe if you do a 50% discount or something with a coupon, that'll definitely grab eyes. But yeah, that was a cutthroat discount that he was doing.
It's funny though, right? Because I would happily do rebates 6 months ago, 100% rebates. So I suppose doing 90% off on Amazon is the same thing, but it's just the mindset, isn't it?
I thought the same. Yep, totally.
That's good. I'd love to hear more about Data Dive because I've heard a lot of people talk about it, and I haven't sort of looked into it too much myself yet. But I did notice though, because I looked at the info for it, because I think previously it was only available to Brandon's kind of like inner circle members, but now they're putting it out to a wider audience. How does it differ to, say, Helium 10's keyword research tools? I know it kind of lays on top of that, I think, but yeah, talk me through how you're using it.
Yeah. I guess it is a fantastic way to consolidate the Helium 10 information along with additional stuff like brand analytics. So for a given product, you put in, say, 10 or maybe 20 of your top competitors. So find the most relevant keyword, pull the best competitors for that. I kind of arrange them by revenue to see who's selling the best, pick the most relevant ones, and then you can do the data dive, and that pulls. I'm going to sound like an infomercial. I'm not getting a kickback for this.
No, it's fine.
That pulls all the Cerebro info, like Google Trends, brand analytics info, and it basically shows the quality of your competitors. So, say for a given product, if it looks at those 10 or 20 competitors and it finds, okay, for this product, there's 300 keywords, it will then show you for each competitor what percentage of those keywords are they ranked well for, and also the percentage of search volume. So you could have a niche where there's only a few keywords, and obviously if they hit all that, they're going to hit all the search volume. But if you have a niche that has a lot of keywords, they might hit the top couple of keywords well, but they might be missing a ton of the search volume on the longer tail. So it gives you two different analytics to look at in terms of how well they're ranking for keywords specifically and how well they're ranking for search volume as a whole. Additionally to that, which is also really useful, it can find outlier keywords that people are ranking and doing sales well on. So I'm in the arts and crafts niche, so you might rank well on product specific keywords for the product that you're selling, but you might also find there are certain top competitors that are ranking that product for in terms of generic keywords like arts and crafts for girls or dinosaur toys or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So it can give you a little insight into potential other areas or even possible ways to merchandise your product slightly differently to give you larger keyword and search volume possibilities. On top of that, it also has its own like separate tabs for writing listings and comparing your title to all the other titles. So there's so much to it, to be honest. It's a really great tool. It also gives you insight into kind of the root keywords that you need to target. So every product will have certain root keywords that have their own long tails, and it gives you insight into, okay, we've probably got 5 or 6 roots that we really need to target well, because hitting one root keyword generally brings up all related keywords to that. Great tool.
Yeah, no, that's good. There's a level of insight and research that the average Amazon seller just doesn't do. So it's interesting to see how big sellers like yourself and are using this kind of data to really grow, and it's exciting. It's good. How then are you using that data for? Do you use that for your PPC campaigns as well? Does that play into your strategy there? And what is your PPC strategy?
Yeah, it definitely plays into that, especially in terms of what I just said. Like, you have to make sure you hit the roots hard, so that hitting one root hard will bring up all related keywords. So that is part of the strategy, and having that insight allows you to pivot in terms of, okay, I'm launching my product, keeping an eye on keyword rankings, and you can kind of see, okay, this route really isn't getting traction, so you can put extra effort into that. Perhaps you now put that into your title and try and raise up that route and start to get that ranked. In terms of overall strategy, it's so different to when I first started. Back in the day, it was kind of an auto and a manual campaign, and cross your
Yeah,
fingers, and
yeah,
not that sophisticated in the slightest. Brandon has
yeah,
I am part of his inner circle. He has a highly technical approach to PPC and an SOP to follow. It mostly centers around trying to gain ranking and relevance really quickly. So manual campaigns only to very discrete terms that you're highly relevant for, and then within the first week or so, if you check Amazon's suggested keywords, so say if you went to create a new PPC campaign, Amazon actually further down gives you suggested keywords, and you can kind of infer from that, okay, they think I'm relevant for this item or that item, and you'll notice at the very beginning, it will have a tiny bit of insight just from what is in your copywriting and the like, and the browse node that you're in, but it's not super dialed in, and after the first week or so, if you're doing a good job, those suggested keywords should really hone in on your product. And if it's not, then maybe you've got something that you need to tweak. But yeah, the PPC strategy kind of focuses around gaining ranking quickly and relevance so that Amazon knows what you are, and using that data to really try and understand if you're not converting well, perhaps you need to change imagery. Like if your click-through rate isn't going well, then I would swap out my hero image. If you're not converting well overall, then maybe you have some work to do on your listing in terms of imagery or copy, as well as having kind of the strategy just in place to launch and rank for keywords. It's also a good diagnosis tool to see, okay, I've got some work to do or not, basically. So for example, if you have a very good ACOS out the gate, then you kind of know that, okay, there's a high chance that it's a leading indicator, is that there's a high chance this product will be successful. Whereas if you've got 400% ACOS in the first week, then you probably know that you're in a bit of trouble and you need to do a little bit of work.
Yeah. No, that's good, man. It's no auto campaigns when you launch is a bit of a contentious issue on Twitter of late, but it's good.
I saw that.
That strategy of creating relevance around the product is, it's interesting, and I really like it. Talk to us a little bit about your Q4 experience, because you said you've got a very Q4 centric brand, and I know the stresses of that. So how are you working towards that for anybody that does have a brand that's very, giftable or toys or anything like that? What are you doing even now, March when we're recording this? Are you thinking about Q4? How do you go into it?
Thinking about Q4 in terms of, it really makes me want to launch products now. Prior to now, ideally, because for Q4 products, you, especially with all the shipping delays and issues, you really need to be placing your orders like June maybe for Q4, so Q4 sizing. So in terms of new products, I really want to get them in now so that I have that chance to prove the product and get chance for my second order to be Q4 sizing, rather than, the problem is if I'm launching in the second half of the year, I need to do much larger orders for my first order, so it's a bigger capital risk.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of other Q4 things you need to be aware of, cash flow is majorly impacted. So if I'm launching a new product now, like I would order for 3.5, maybe 4 months, depending on the situation. But I need to be aware that my reorder will probably come around June, July, and then that's depending on the amount of Q4 lift you get. It could be anywhere from like 3 to 10x the amount, maybe even more. So my second order is probably going to be 6 to 8 months worth of stock. So much bigger capital investment, and because of that, you're not going to be profitable until you hit January, just because that second order, profitable on the product as a whole. That second order is going to be so large, you can't kind of offset that in profitability within the first order. What was kind of key for us last year and why we hit the seven figures really was maximizing my Q4. I had huge problems the previous year with logistics, and really getting on top of that. I kind of diversified my supply chain a bit and intentionally sent some with two different freight forwarders to two separate 3PLs. And the other thing that was really key was having a 3PL that could do live truck unloads. So I sell in the States. It might not be as much of an issue in the UK, but if you're using Amazon Partner Carrier, like sometimes it can take weeks to get an appointment or weeks to check in. And last year there was a big issue with restock limits, and they weren't giving us enough limits to send in the amounts that we needed for Q4, and I tried everything like beg, steal, borrow, emailed every different person there to try and get the limits raised, but they were having none of it. And having a 3PL that sent in dedicated live trucks, sorry for more context, so rather than have an Amazon truck come pick up your goods, typically they'll go back to Amazon and then they'll just hold them. Like they might sit there 1 or 2 weeks whilst they're clearing backlogs before they'll check in. Whereas if you have a 3PL that sends in their own trucks, because Amazon don't control those trucks, they have to unload them immediately. So you lose all that like 2 to 4 week potentially, where Amazon would just stick your products to the side. So they check in much more quickly, and that was absolutely pivotal. Like that, because our restock limits were right on the edge. That was kind of make or break between our Q4. So having a 3PL that could do live trucks for us with a high Q4 brand was really important.
Yeah. What kind of lift did you see in Q4?
It varied a lot from product to product. So our hero SKU was about 12x, whereas other ones were maybe 3 to 4x. Yeah, it can go bonkers. But thankfully, although our Q4 was a little bit of a disaster, I had kind of data and the curves of sales to kind of, so say sales ran out November, I could kind of work out that trajectory of how sales were going and a guesstimate based on that. But inventory planning around Q4 for a Q4 brand can be quite stressful, because if you miss by a couple of weeks of Q4, like 12x growth, like that's a lot of months of non-Q4 sales. So that's something else to look out for.
Yeah. Thankfully, the restock limits seem to have really relaxed now, for now at least.
Yep, big relief for sure.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how long that lasts, because who knows going into Q4 what Amazon will do. But fingers crossed they keep it that way.
Yep.
Good stuff, man. Good stuff. So, would there be sort of coming towards a close for anybody that's listening and is just getting started with Amazon? What would your advice be to them? What's different now than what it was when you got started, and how should they approach this business coming into it?
They should approach it as a business. That's definitely a change in the last couple of years. So back when I started, and to an extent I still do view it as a hobby, but it was just a little hobby and something that I was trying out. Whereas just because the skill set has to operate on Amazon has grown considerably, you just have to go into it a lot more intentional, I think, and have a plan, and honestly have a course that gives you some kind of structure. Yes, you can do it. In my view, yes, you can do it by yourself, but you will ultimately save more money if you follow someone that has a proven path. And honestly, it takes a lot of stress out of it if you have someone that you can refer to that has experience, and if you're following their kind of methodology, then they have specific experience to that methodology and can help you course correct if something's going wrong. And outside of that, like if you're just starting, I think the issues that new sellers face back when I started, outside of the technical approach, are still the same today. So analysis paralysis, and just been distracted by so many different approaches, because there are so many different approaches that you can do in this world. just focus and yeah, having some kind of known approach to follow.
Mm. Yeah, that's good, man. It's good. That's why I like this business, right? Because if you try and trade crypto or buy NFTs or whatever, there's can be so much luck involved. You have to time the market, that kind of thing. Whereas with this business, if you just work hard and just keep taking forward steps, that's the key to success, right? Not some luck, not some, it's a business that rewards your diligence. So that's why I love it. But you've clearly been diligent.
Diligent and grit.
Mm.
We're doing 7 figures now. If I'd given up after that first product, I would have been one of the many failure stories for Amazon. And
Yeah.
I'm from a creative background. I have no business experience at all, and I've just got to where we are just through not giving up and learning from mistakes. And that isn't something that's unique to me. That's something that anyone can do.
Yeah, that's really good, man. Really good. Well, I think you should be proud of what you've achieved so far, and super excited to see how the next couple of years pans out. You've got a coach now? You said, is that kind of changing how you're running the business day to day? Like the input that you're getting from them, the advice that you're getting from them.
Yes, in terms of so I started with a coach maybe 6 weeks ago, and his first approach was to give me more structure. So we did a proper forecast, which made me realise my plan wasn't going to work. But because of that, it really gave me a focal point. Okay, we need to launch this many products in this timeline, and to do that, I really need to front load my product research so that we have like a pipeline of ideas that we can start to get in production. So I've basically dropped everything, and I'm just focusing on product research for now, because that is the first component of our scaling. Outside of that, my kind of next big boy exercise is working on cash flow, because we do have decent cash reserves to launch products, but I think expanding at the rate that we want to, I'll probably get to the point where I'll need some external funding, and doing cash flow forecasting is really going to give me some insight to how that might pan out, or also how might getting better terms from our suppliers might help to mitigate some of that requirement for external cash.
Yeah, and then what's the plan? Final question then. What's the plan once you do sell the business in 2 to 3 years' time, whenever it kind of does happen? Are you gonna ride off into the sunset? Are you gonna use it to invest and start something again? What's your thoughts?
That's a great question. So, like I mentioned, I discovered this as a sideline. I'm from a more creative background, and honestly, I find this is an incredible business for achieving what I would like to achieve monetarily, but it doesn't necessarily give me the fulfillment that I had in my previous job. And selling random products doesn't give me fulfillment outside of hitting random numbers, which isn't a great life goal to have, in my opinion. Everyone's different, but for me, that that doesn't really kind of rev my engine. So along with growing this brand, I'm a big dog guy. I love dogs. So I want to grow a dog brand and then use that to help to give back to like dog-related charities or causes. And I really think that that's something that I would love to do, and I'd love to grow out a brand that way and kind of have that as like a longer term project that I wouldn't necessarily look to sell, but building this business and having a sale, that would kind of hit my goals of what I would like to do for our family. So we both, my partner's from Australia, I'm from the UK. We'd like to live in both at some point, so we can be around my parents as they age and her parents. So kind of want to be able to have accommodation in both locations, and that's what selling this business is for. And then the dog brand is kind of more for a longer term fulfillment goal.
Awesome, man. Well, I'm excited to watch all of that unfold, and slightly jealous that you'll live half the year in Australia. But such as my wife's actually Australian as well, so I don't know why I moan, because if I really wanted to, we could actually live in Australia. But
if it helps, we've just had massive flooding, so it's very British summer over here. Yeah.
Yeah. I got a lot of friends in Australia, and I saw some of them, neck deep in water. It's pretty crazy, but
Yep.
crazy times. Good stuff. If people want to follow your journey, Robin, where's the best place for them to keep in touch with what you're up to?
On Twitter, yep. I just started posting on Twitter, I guess, in the last 6 months, maybe. It's just at Brown T Robin. It's my name backwards, so instead of Robin T Brown, it's Brown T Robin.
Good stuff. Yeah, well, I thoroughly enjoy following you. There's some good banter, but some great updates from you as well, and looking forward to seeing more of those updates through this year. And thank you so much for coming on and sharing your insight and wisdom. I know it will have helped a lot of sellers just that maybe are struggling with some aspects, are finding some things hard, having seen your journey. You get through some challenges and now seeing some real great growth is super inspiring, man. So we really, really appreciate you coming on.
Well, thanks for having me, man. It's fun.
Yeah, definitely. Good stuff. All right, well, we'll have to hopefully get you back on again in, a year or two, find out how it was all going, see what the journey's looking like then.
Yeah, for sure. Let's do it.
What an episode that was with Robin. What a guy, what a conversation, and really looking forward to seeing how his journey goes. Do make sure that you do check his Twitter out if you want to follow his journey. We'll leave a link in the description below. And if you like episodes and conversations like this, do hit that subscribe button. If you're listening on the podcast, hit the like button just to let us know. If you're watching on YouTube, leave us a comment. Let us know that you enjoyed the episode, and we will keep working hard to get great guests on the show like Robin some more. All right, I will see you in the next episode next week.